We're going to switch right over, and we're going to be talking with an author. And oh, he came in his finery here today. Hollis is here, Hollis Palmer. Hollis, and I've talked to him. He's written many books. He's written nonfiction, but he's written fiction. And his fiction focuses on
some of the great families of Saratoga. During the Gilded Age.
Yeah, the Gilded Age. I was telling him I'm enjoying his book. As a matter of fact, I think I have it with me here somewhere. Maybe I bet I left it in my others. That's not my book because I got, no, it's okay. I have my book, I must have left it in my box. Anyway, it's called What If? And you have Maggie's Revenge was that?
Yes. That was my third book. This is
Precursor,
my 14th.
yeah. But this is called What If? And I do want to mention that when you read his books about Saratoga, it kind of drops you into another era, but there's so much history in it that it becomes fascinating.
Thank you.
Can I say that?
Absolutely, please do.
Yeah. So how did you, the research that you must have done is amazing.
I have loved Saratoga my whole life. Okay, it's just been one of those things that I grew up just outside of South Glens Falls. Used to go there all the time. And I always remember when I went by the big houses, I'd go, who lives there? How did, because we did not live in one of those houses, I can tell you.
Right.
And so when we were, I got involved from that point of view. And after I finished my doctorate, like everybody else in the world, I was 50, I took a year off. And I found this true crime that happened at exactly the same time as O.J. Simpson's big trial.
True crime.
True crime. And it was a very similar one, and I wrote it, that's called To Spend Eternity Alone. And I started getting into true crime. I went from true crime to doing history, to doing a couple business books. Then I wrote a book called CNBC in Saratoga in the Victorian Era, which should be the Gilded Age, my mistake. And
so wait a minute, the Gilded Age and Victorian, what is the difference?
Victorian definitely applies to Europe.
Oh,
Gilded
to Europe.
Age applies to us.
I did not know that.
The big part of the Victorian era was British nobility trying to marry wealthy American women.
That was going on, absolutely, yeah.
About. The women were called buccaneers.
Yeah.
In the United States.
Well, that's what this book covers that.
Yeah, it does, yes. And because it becomes part of yes, Saratoga is very much in the middle of those kind of things. In America, we were more about new money. We weren't trying to save old estates. We weren't trying, what had happened is nobility had all invested in land in Europe. And suddenly, with international trading, it wasn't worth that much.
No, it wasn't.
And they did not go into industry because anybody could go into industry.
So that wasn't quite elite enough, right?
And in America, we went industry. So I maintain that we should be called the Gilded Age. And unfortunately, I wrote the book before I came to that conclusion.
But we are the Gilded Age, aren't we?
We are the Gilded Age, yes.
Yeah.
And
why is it called the Gilded Age? Because I think of gilding as being like gold and things like that.
Over the top of something that wasn't fine.
Oh, okay.
You gild something, make it look like it's gold, but it's not.
Okay.
And it all comes
it's
about
fake.
Because of
fake.
Yeah,
sort of?
Mark Twain wrote a book in 1876 called The Gilded Age.
Yeah.
And he was absolutely perfect because that's what we were doing. We had people who were 2 generations from living in a log cabin, suddenly wealthy. And how did they behave, et cetera? So they put glitter on people who were just plain.
That's sort of like the Molly Brown story with where they were dirt poor and then.
Yep. Well, the main characters in the book that we're talking about, the main families, one of them are the cousins of Leland Stanford University, who's from Albany.
Yeah, and Stanford University.
Yes, okay. And they were okay, but that's all they were 2 generations before. And suddenly they're among the richest people in the United States, with servants, et cetera, et cetera. So you get, it's a whole different thing than being raised with servants for 5 generations, which is what Europe was. So I maintain that the Gilded Age is a much better way to apply for us. Mm-hmm. So the book series, which is going to wind up being 7 books, is called Gilded Saratoga, the series. Mm-hmm. Okay, first one being Annandale, the second one being What If.
That was your first book, was it? Yeah.
And my third book is Bankrupt. It's not done yet, but it gets into that whole series. But they're basically in 5-year blocks. First one's 1890. Second one's 1890. What If is from 1891 to 1895. And what happened was I was doing the history of the Lathrop family from Albany. who had houses in Saratoga. And I realized at the wedding, some of the other big names in Saratoga were at the wedding. These families weren't standalone families. They were all integrated. They were social friends. It totally changed how I looked at it. So that's why I went to fiction and started writing about these people who were all interrelated. Because they had kids the same age, they would have been going to the same parties, same plays, same everything. And it just changed how I approached everything.
Yeah, the history part of it, to me, is very fascinating. But what I want to know is, did you go to an old newspaper to figure out the murder? That there was a murder or a body found or something, and then built on that?
Yep. Yes. And I did it back before they had computers in everybody's house. And
Yeah, I know. You used the microfiche,
You got it, okay? And drove to the libraries all over the Western world. But yeah, that's exactly how I started out doing it. And to this day, I still do a lot of it. One of the things I try to do in my book is use old language. Your previous interview, I totally agree with that. You know, try to do it in the language of that time. Try to make people feel like, what was it like to live in the 1890s?
And you do that in your
Thank
book,
you.
because I noticed the language is a little bit different than what I would say today's is.
Well, my dictionary it was published in 1908.
Okay.
That's the dictionary I use. So
Is that the one you're using?
That's the one I use, okay? Because it gives
Where
me
did you even find a dictionary printed?
eBay.
Oh, okay.
You can find anything on eBay.
Okay.
eBay or 8 books, either one of
Okay.
them, okay? Will give you everything you want on that. But that's how I wound up doing it. I just, try to say it like they said it. Try to use their language.
And you do, because I read this and I'm going, oh my, how did he do that? You know, as I read your books, it's like, oh my goodness, he's got it. He's really nailed it.
Thank you. I'm trying to put you there. I want
You
you to
are.
feel
You
like
are putting me
thank you.
there.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah.
One of these days, I'm going to actually give a tour of the, right, like from the houses, and go down and tell the story of right in front of the houses, where the carriage ride was. Where
Because
the
you know
murder-
the streets. You're
got it.
talking the
Just-
streets.
just still walking.
When
toward
I
that.
was a kid, it was like we would go to Saratoga. And we would always go down, and I'm sorry, I don't know the name of the street, but all those huge houses
North Broadway.
with the servants' quarters in the back. And it's amazing those structures are still there, but they certainly aren't used for servants' quarters, probably.
Not anymore. No, what was very interesting is the carriage house in the back, that was for the male servants.
For the male?
Male servants. The female servants lived in the house.
Oh, I did not know.
You can't have them. You can have them together. My goodness.
Well, I didn't know. I thought they were married.
I told you back. No, almost never. Okay. No. So the male servants lived in the back, and the women servants lived in the.
And they had like the
house.
carriage, a place for the carriage to go in
Oh
the back.
yeah, it's really neat. It's very good. A lot of the carriage houses are now houses on their own. They were sold off from the main property
I know.
back in the 70s.
Yeah.
But we are fortunate to have a lot of very old properties still up there, still able to see
And
it.
they haven't been torn down and
No.
restructured or
No.
anything.
No.
Yeah.
So that's how
Yeah, but I think that the idea of the history of Saratoga, every community, let's face it, we've all been around the same time, but there seems to be something special, I think, because of the eliteness of Saratoga, bear with me, with the racetrack and the people that rushed there during the summer, the genteel that went there, and the hotels that brought people there in the summer during the racetrack and for the waters and the spas and you name it.
See, you just did what a lot of people do. In that years, you thought that the people came for the track. It was the other way around. The track came because all the rich people were already coming to Saratoga.
Oh, okay. I did not know that.
Yeah, and it doesn't show up till the 1860s, and the hotels start in 1810. So
See, that's why I need you on the show, because I did not know that.
So what happened was they were looking to start thoroughbred racing, and they thought, well, where's everybody going in the summer? And all the rich families are going to Saratoga, so they put a track there.
Get out. Is that true?
It's true. Okay, so it came the other way around.
I did not know that.
Okay,
Yeah.
and people say they came for the water. There was waters everywhere. They used to bottle the water.
Sharon Springs had.
Sharon
some-
Springs,
yeah.
Lebanon Springs,
Yeah.
or just Union Springs. Okay, these were all springs back in the day, and yet Saratoga continued going because Saratoga had a whole rich social life. Okay, it was about a place to go, and they got away with it because they didn't allow gambling or drinking on Sundays. So the churches went along with it. You take that one block.
Oh.
You take that one block on Washington Street, immediately off Broadway, You have 3 massive churches within 1 block. Why? They were right in the middle of the hotels. That's where the hotels were.
Yeah.
They all had sanctuaries in the basement they used in winter. Then the main room up on the second
Was
floor
on the second-
was just for the summer with the summer guests.
Yeah.
So you have to get into that, and you have to get into the music played and how people.
So the
actually
the water didn't, I remember as a kid, my dad would say, if you drink a glass of this, which was awful, I'm sorry.
I agree with you.
It was awful, sulfur tasting, I'll buy you a candy bar. And you know what? I didn't want that candy bar. It's like, forget that candy bar. You can't bribe me with this stuff.
There are different opinions on the Springs, okay?
But it's good for you, I guess.
Yeah, well, everybody went to the Springs every morning, but not for the reason you think.
Oh, okay.
There was a dance every night in Saratoga. At that time, in the Gilded Age, there was a dance every single night. So you went to the Springs in the morning to get the gossip on who danced with who.
Oh, okay.
Because if you didn't go, you were the gossip. So everybody went to the Springs every morning, but they went there to protect their own reputation.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and to find out who they could have a scandal about. It really becomes a social event.
It's the old
not
water cooler.
As a matter of fact, if you look in the movie Saratoga, there's a movie Saratoga, and the woman takes a sip of her water and throws it away very quickly. In the movie, it's an old black and white movie, and she flips the water away because it's so bad. I mean, because of the mineral water.
Yeah.
Okay? So it's kind of interesting. Did people come for the water? I'm sure some did.
Yeah.
Okay? I don't know why, but I'm sure some did. I'm not a fan of the waters.
Yeah, but that's neither here nor there. But I do see people going there with their jugs and
Yeah.
filling up their jugs and taking them off to wherever they go. I don't know. Your books are great.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I encourage people to, if you want to learn a little bit about the history of Saratoga and have a good read besides,
Very good.
check out your books.
Thank you very much.
Hollis Palmer.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks
Thank
for
you.
being here.
My pleasure.